Welcome back to Curse, Code, and Crown, a live play Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition podcast featuring a fully original world and campaign. I am the wizard Cronox, observer of time. Curse, Code, and Crown features our regular voiceover artists and improvisers, Laura Elizabeth as the Orc Count Eta and Princess Gwendolyn, Tyler Hewitt as Makka Deathcap, and Ryan LaPlante as Duncan Danno, alongside our dungeon master, the incredible Tom McGee. So get ready for an adventure including thrills, chills, and hope for a brighter tomorrow. It's time for Curse, Code, and Crown!
So the four of you spend an incredibly restful night in Doc Malvern's clinic. As someone who falls asleep to rain noises quite frequently, man, is this the right place for that? It is soothing AF, aside from the boom of thunder, the occasional crackling of lightning. But sure enough, it would seem that obviously having lived here for some time now, the Doc, Nev, and Bleep have managed to insulate the place as best they can against the elements. And as a result, it is a fairly cozy, if concerned, sleep. You wake up feeling well rested. Gwendolyn, you still feel a little weakened from your kind of spiritual donation.
Mm-hmm.
But the Elos blade is still looking kind of pocked and rough, but you can see where new kind of metal threads have grown, and it is starting to look more like its old self, which is ironic because it always just kind of looks like a sword. Like it's not hugely, it's not a hugely ornamental weapon.
I mean, it looks like a great sword, but not like a spectacular
but not a
sword.
Good sword.
Exactly.
So it is clearly Aesop is working his questionable magic. So you've got that going. So you awake to find that Nev and Bleep have kind of gone off on patrol. Doc Malvern is in his quarters, seemingly kind of coming out of a long slumber. You get the sense that you kind of witnessed his big burst of energy for the day. That he doesn't. He's perhaps more frail than you at first had assumed. But he's around if you need to ask anything. But you have some time to make preparations before you venture out into the storms.
I think Duncan would, he would have to sew a chin strap onto his hat so that it wouldn't blow away in the wind.
This is wise.
And then I think he'd be looking around for anything that he could use to just kind of strengthen his gear in terms of survival under the weather. He tends to be more a silk shirt, this looks good, I can move well guy than a let's survive never-ending thunderstorms and wind rushes. So if there's any like cloaks from other people who've been here or things like that, he'd need to cobble together himself like a pretty serious coat of some kind.
That's fair. I think if you can roll me a sleight of hand check, please, to see how well you do with this. But yeah, there's definitely weather gear, and you are correct. One thing to keep in mind for your expedition is once you're the clinic is currently the only proper secured site against the weather. The weather is so bad and has been going on since long before anyone from this party arrived, that there are some like minor shelters, but they really are kind of lean-tos. So this is kind of your one super safe spot. But once you're out there in the elements, you'll be very much in them. What'd you get,
15
Ryan?
for the sleight of hand.
Okay. So I think you find a somewhat damaged slicker like the one that Nev wears. You get the sense that being a massive troll fellow who gets in a lot of scrapes, Nev is not gentle on clothes. You noticed that his coat was kind of patchwork as well, and you kind of find a bunch of pieces of coats and are able to piece together a reasonable enough sort of long coat to kind of sling up and over your existing gear. Because you are piecing it together, you are able to kind of like leave in little trick spots if you need them. So, if you need quick access to your sword or what have you, you're able to do that fairly easily. And yes, you attach a chin strap to your hat. Would you want to take? They have a couple of sort of rain treated hats. They very much look like the classic Newfoundland kind of yellow slicker hat. That is, for those of you unfamiliar with the fine province of Newfoundland. Hey, go to Newfoundland. It's lovely. Food's great and the people are nice. But they're kind of, you'd likely see them on like old sailors or fishermen. They're these big floppy yellow hats that are just there to get as much rain off your head as possible. In the
I think he'd stow his hat then and focus on something a little more weather friendly. He'd find the darkest or most stained one, so it wouldn't be like a bright yellow.
No, none of them are yellow. They're all made of kind of a brown material that seems to have been treated with wax.
Then whichever is the most dashing, he'll take that one.
Okay, sure. There's one that has like a cool embroidered pattern, kind of like what you'd find on like a Wild West pistol grip. So just kind of some like almost paisley images, but yeah, it's clear that someone put a little bit of extra shine on this one, so it is yours.
Beautiful.
Ida would definitely want a cloak of some sort for sure. It's like, I mean, she's got leather armor, and I mean, you know, there's like cracks and stuff.
Yeah.
Do
you think Ida would want to come along on this voyage, or would she want to stay back? I will point out there are some logistical concerns that can be sorted if one of you stays behind, either Gwendolyn or Ita, largely because you still need to figure out where you're going after this, and also presumably some other logistics. So it's up to you.
Right.
But
I mean, it's also like, would you rather I left Ida behind? Only because there was like the Apex Institute cloud skimmer that she would be interested in finding.
So I guess the other question is, would Gwendolyn come along then, given the lightning-y nature of the space? I think for ease of operation, I will suggest only take one so that you aren't constantly having to jump back and forth. But Duncan obviously has to go. Tyler only has one character. Given that you have two, you can kind of choose who goes on the mission.
It is worth flagging, Gwendolyn, that I did see a large number of those lightning creatures jumping around in the sky over the valley. So
yeah,
someone needs to stay behind to sort out rations.
I'll be honest, like, Duncan, this does kind of seem like a you thing. And like, I mean, there's opportunity. I could get to know Doc Malvern a bit better and like get to maybe understand like people who might be like opposed to the Alliance and see what like things that maybe I need to like help push the Alliance towards in order to include everyone.
I think that's an excellent idea. It's noble and also keeps everyone collectively safer. It is worth noting, the Alliance first consisted of members of kind of whoever you chose, so the more good people you get in there, the better you can kind of steer it over time.
Right? I think so.
All right, so you stay here, interact with some people, find out where dangers may follow, and we'll take Ita to go investigate this skimmer and try to solve the mystery of House Danno and the observatory.
Oh, sounds like a plan. Have fun.
We'll do, I guess. I feel like that's the full awkward goodbye between the two of them.
Yep.
Feels right.
All right, Makka, what kind of preparations would you take for the elements?
Well, very, very, like in a very practical sense, I have prepared specific spells now. You may have noticed based on some of my like control water and stuff like that, I had basically prepared spells for being at sea. A lot of that has been changed up now.
Don't worry, I could move the water. Like, all the rain just kind of trembles as it falls around you. You're like,
There's you know, in creating a total class, I was looking into, you know, like they don't wear a lot of clothing. They just don't see a need for it. But Tom, this is, you know, your world and we're kind of working together to like play through it here. Would Makka see this weather and know that he needs some sort of protection from the elements, or would he be okay to just kind of march out there as is, as God made him?
I think he would probably be fine against the elements. I mean, like just thinking about how turtles and turtles work. The only reason I would recommend clothes if you wanted them or any weatherproofing stuff was purely for comfort's sake. If you don't have a cloak or anything, you're kind of at the mercy of the elements. So if you're cold, you're going to stay cold, but you're also
I mean, also I can just I can just shell up too. Is the thing. Like, yeah,
I think you're probably fine. I don't think you need anything.
That's what I basically wanted to know because Makka, has no interest in like frivolities for the most part, right? So even going so far as like, do I need clothes? Nope. Okay, good enough. Like that's kind of all he wanted to know. He would, and this might be a long shot just because we're at a clinic. He had surrendered his shield and his club. Now his arm, his root folk arm, doubles as a club, but he has no shield right now.
If you surrendered those at court, those were given to Duncan by the Seeing Eye Frog. He received all their stuff, which is like, yes, his gear. So you have all your shit.
Then I think Makka's ready to go. Thank you for reminding me of that.
No problem. And we can all remember that at least Jossie can't take over frogs. So if the world falls to Jossie, the frogs will reign.
All right. And Ita, you said you'd look for a cloak. What other preparations would you take?
Not much.
Let's get the show on the road, We're just
it's kind of like we got a thing to do. We got a thing to do. She wants to do it.
Okay, great. So having geared up, you have they're able to give you a rough sense of where the ship went down. They mentioned the northwest quadrant. So pointing it out, it's kind of like you're looking. You arrived. We'll say the clinic is in the south, just for ease of everything. So we can take the tower as the Spiros Observatory sort of is our like center of the compass around which we can orient ourselves. You ultimately want to be heading west when all this is said and done, but the cloud skimmer went down in the northwest quadrant, so you'll need to sort of venture forward. You're seeing sort of the cones and the tornadoes touch down in the northeast. There is a strong concentration of lightning kind of from here to where the ship went down, but that's kind of just true everywhere as the wind and rain continue unabated.
Okay. And sorry, you may have covered this, but what is the general terrain? This was once the fertile valley. Is this like thick jungle beset by torrential rain, or has the tornado torn up a lot of it and it's barren? Mudslides?
The tornado situation is further northeast of here, so you're actually not sure at this range.
Okay.
From where you're situated, kind of at the southernmost part of the valley, you can see sort of trees throughout. It does seem like heavy jungle terrain, but in terms of mudslides and things, I think, Makka, based on your experience of living in a swamp, like the odds of that are all very high. But it was kind of hard to tell from here.
But right now we're in a jungle, basically.
Yes,
the clinic is in a jungle. Okay.
Yeah, a good way to think of this is if you've ever been to like a botanical garden or anything of that ilk, that's kind of how this valley seems to have been arranged in terms of paths, like large sort of, you can see now a vine-clogged and kind of muddy pathway that would have been probably the central walking trail kind of from this visitor center to the observatory. And there was clearly some thought to like, people are going to want to be here. And there are kind of nursery pods that you can identify from the 3D sculpture like you can see where there would have been places for, if say you did have some plant growth from your local region, you needed to kind of carefully curate, you could come do that here. But obviously it's all overgrown and generally waterlogged at this point. So how much of that is still standing is uncertain.
Okay. Thanks.
No worries.
I was worried I might have missed that initial
description. Yeah. No. So it'll be tough going, but the advantage, I guess, the lightning is there is often a lot of light to see by, but it is dark. Again, these clouds are very low and very dark. even in the morning.
Okay.
Fine.
Makka will patiently wait by the door if anyone else has any final tasks to complete or anything to say or ask.
I think Duncan will join. It seems like with the climate and the situation, the party traveling order might make the most sense with Makka in front in case there's anything that needs to be kind of pushed aside or hacked to get through the jungle. Put Ida in the middle as Ida is the softest, and Duncan can be rear guard in case something comes up on them from behind kind of thing.
Okay. Makes sense to me.
Does Ida have anything that she needs to take care of before we head out? We kind of already covered this, but I want to make sure.
She got a cloak she can drop around her. She's great.
Okay.
Great.
Yep. Makka heads out the door.
Okay. Nev is just sort of coming back from patrol as you start to head out. And he just kind of waves to you and says, hey, best of luck on your journeys. We'll keep an eye out for you. If anything gets too bad out there, we'll try and get you out. All right.
Yes. Thank you for your aid. Gwendolyn is going to remain here, and so we will return to collect her.
Yeah, all right, cool. Yeah, that works for us. We'll would say we'll keep her fed, but don't know that we really need to do that. So keep her polished. Great. All right. Well, more stew for Nev. And he kind of like winks at Bleeper, rolls his eyes, and they're like, all right. And Bleep says, yeah, but seriously, be careful out there. It's a mess. And then the two of them head into the clinic, and you're able to set forward. So to begin with, Duncan, I imagine you would likely be kind of trying to help navigate using your navigation tech. So let's go with a perception, please, at advantage.
Okay.
And Ita, would you be mathematically assisting?
100%.
Okay, so if you want to go ahead and roll me Arcana, please.
16.
16? Okay, great. So, Ryan, you already have advantage, so we'll count this as a bless. So you can add a d6 to your...
Bless is d4. Do you want d6, or should I go d4?
No, go d6. It's not a real bless. It's a math blessing.
Nice. That is a... Am I adding my, what the term is? Proficiency because I've got tools? Great. 27.
Great. So yeah, because you have the tower and these two separate weather patterns, you've actually got a pretty decent way to kind of find your way forward. So the three of you begin to make your way. I'm curious how all of you are handling this kind of like, as you know, you begin to walk, and obviously anyone can handle any amount of weather for like a couple moments. But as you begin to get into the trees and the kind of uncomfortable sensation of the rain falling both upward and downward begins to kind of settle in, you find yourselves wet in a way that is rare when you're not underwater, because there is literally no good direction to keep yourself dry from. Makka, you actually find this duality, though strange, somewhat comforting. It's a cycle, and you fully recognize that. Mm-hmm. But it also makes sense to you, I think, from a nature lens, that for a storm like this to continue unabated nonstop, if the water was simply coming down, there couldn't possibly be enough condensation to keep it running. So it would seem that for whatever reason, this ecosystem has become a weird self-cycling weather pattern. For you, it's not really a problem. You're a turtle. You can see underwater, so it's just wet. But for Duncan and Ita, it's a lot. What is kind of like forcing your way forward? Like probably for the two of them, I imagine Makka is kind of fine, but
I think because Ida has a powerful build, like she basically counts as one size larger when she's like pushing and dragging stuff. So I think for her, it's kind of like she's kind of digging into the ground with each step, kind of like forcing her way, while being very disconcerted about like the cloak really only covers like rain falling on her, not going up. So she's not happy about being drenched.
Yep, that's fair.
She should have expected it. So Mm.
Much like anyone who buys like a fashionable raincoat,
Yeah.
I'm gonna look great and be mostly wet.
Yeah. But it's
how about
sunny
you,
out
Duncan?
now. Like, obviously, I'm just going to look so great. That's all that matters.
Yeah. How about you, Duncan?
Duncan is sure-footed, so his movement penalty from difficult terrain is cut in half, and he's got advantage against like being knocked prone and that kind of thing. So I think with his coat and his style, his bone rapier would be out and be using it almost as a machete if there was anything kind of like swinging towards them around Makka's probably unstoppable advance in the lead. The verb I would use for his travel is he is ghosting forwards. Like he's moving totally fine, kind of around the back of the group, keeping an eye out. He is soaked, but I think that just means he's quieter than normal. This is kind of a hostile environment, and he doesn't know the rules of what could be here, because whatever has survived these storms would clearly be nasty. His hat is still a solid bonus, because basically with his body, the water coming up can't hit him in the face because his body's below it, and the water coming down hits the hat. So his face is dry, and he can see things. So I think, yeah, he's drifting probably in style and mood towards the guy who hunts raptors in Jurassic Park. Like there's just a lot of he's got a lot of Muldoon looking around into the jungle.
Nice.
Okay, great. With that, can you please roll me a perception check?
All of us or Duncan?
Just Duncan, unless you all think you'd be like active, because it sounds like Duncan is aggressively on the lookout for enemies.
He'd probably be more than Makka is. Makka, I think, is just looking it forward.
Ida's looking at everything with like a scientific curiosity.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool.
19 for Duncan.
19. All right. So you are not seeing much or any real wildlife around here. It's so lush, and again, like the fertile really does stand up to its name. And I mean, Costa Rica and or Ilse Nublar from Jurassic Park is a solid pull for this, in that the greenery is lush and constant, and you have those big, huge leaves and things. But it is eerily silent beyond that, aside from the rain. You'd expect that kind of buzz and constant hum of wildlife, but so far there's none. So you're not seeing anything of that sort, but you can smell fires on the air, smoke on the air, which is not entirely surprising given how many fires you could see from the clinic. Also, admittedly, with lightning just randomly striking stuff, like there will be burns. Of course, for the three of you, rather, you know that the lightning is unfortunately sentient and aggressive, so not an entirely safe bet. You've been going for quite some time. It's been probably about an hour or a couple hours. Can you all please roll me a survival check?
Do our cloaks make any difference on this, Tom?
Only in as much as you don't have disadvantage on the survival checks from
13.
Nat 1.
17.
17. All right. Ita and Duncan, despite your kind of preparations, this has taken a lot out of you. The mud and everything else is wearing you down. I'm gonna say you both have temporary exhaustion at level 1.
What does that mean?
So exhaustion at level 1 means that you will have disadvantage on ability checks. Yes. So not on attack rolls. Yeah, but not attack rolls, not saving rolls, just on random abilities. Just kind of indicating that early level of being real sleepy, where your brain just isn't quite working at the speed you would like. You don't get the sense that there was much you could really do to prevent this. It's not like you came ill prepared. It's just, nature of the beast. You can choose to rest up if and where you want to. You'll just have to kind of tell me how you're trying to rest. Basically, as you probably ascertained, this is an incredibly hostile environment. And as a result, you're all going to be risking exhaustion fairly frequently. So you'll have to determine kind of when and how you want to break. So with that in mind, you can smell more and more smoke, and you can actually start to see flashes of lightning. So Duncan, I know particularly to your eye, this would signal that you're going to be facing lightning creatures sooner than later. How do you want to proceed, and what kind of preparations do you think you would take as you move from your reckoning? You're getting close to where the ship supposedly went down, and I think we'll say you find some wrecked metal in your path that kind of indicates you must be reaching the crash zone.
Makka will turn around to you two and say,
the lightning strikes draw near. We will be facing more of those creatures from the sky. I have come up with some protection that I may provide to one of you. It will require great concentration, and I will be limited in my abilities while conferring it to you. But I have it nonetheless.
How does it work?
Jossie, perhaps retroactively or perhaps even unbeknownst to her, has graced me with more magic. I can reduce the negative effects of various energies. Fire, water, lightning. You will still feel the blows, but not quite so hard as when we were at sea.
All right, well, here's the question, I guess, Ita, on the scale of things. Should we reduce it on me and I'll charge and try to distract anything that comes at you, or should we put it on you and then all fight equally?
I was considering maybe finding a fallen tree and hiding below the trunk.
Ito, we did not bring you out here with us to hide. Now is the time for action.
We do not want to wait until the creatures pass, no?
Makka looks up to the sky and says,
you will be waiting a very long time in the Valley of Eternal Storms.
I see.
I believe hiding in place, we could say, would be illogical at this time.
All right, then perhaps I will try to perform my own magic on the creatures as I see them.
All right, why don't you put it on me, and then I'll just try to make sure she doesn't get shocked. I feel like I can be distracting.
Just so.
And Makka is going to cast Protection from Energy, and I'm going to select Lightning from the list of various energies. For the duration, the willing creature you touch has resistance to one damage type: cold, fire, lightning, or thunder. We're going to say resistance to lightning damage for Duncan. So I believe that's half.
It is. Yep.
That halves damage. Okay. And that's concentration. So I kind of, that's limiting my spell casting, but I'm still able to throw down if needs be.
Yeah, that makes sense. Great. So what does that look like for, with your spore magic?
I think it is, you are now just covered even in the rain, because I think it's imbued with magic. It's not quite natural. You are just dusted with a coating of spores all over you. And should electricity make contact with you, they will sort of ground you to a degree. It'll be basically dispersed among a network of spores coating your body.
So they're like Faraday shrooms, essentially. They've built like a cage around the exterior of me.
Yeah.
Nice.
Not like you are, like wrapped up and gunked up or anything like that. I think it's almost imperceptible after it's cast. There's maybe like a shimmer to you afterwards, and that's about it.
Cool.
Well, I think then that we'd probably have the two of them traveling forwards, and Duncan, with his ability to kind of be sure-footed, can kind of flit around the party almost, where he'll engage whatever gets closest first, and then try to let them kind of keep going past.
Okay, sure, that makes sense to me. Great. All right. So with that in mind, there is a crack in the sky above you, and one of the trees ahead bursts into flame. And emerging from the base of the trunk, step two of the lightning creatures. They are smaller than the ones you saw at sea. You get the sense that, similar to the one that dispersed after getting thunderwaved into oblivion, this is likely one creature that subdivided and also expended some energy in hitting the tree and landing. So they are somewhat smaller, and there are two of them. You guys have prepped for this. They aren't actively looking for you. They just kind of came down from the sky doing their thing. So I will say you have a surprise round.
Great.
Yeah.
Duncan is in full Muldoon, so it's just Mr. Bang creeps up. It like leans against a tree branch to level the aim. And then I think he'll probably take the first shot if he's specifically on distraction duty. So
great. Let's roll for initiative just for ease of my brain.
Sure.
The jack die. There we go.
25 for Duncan.
Woo!
He's so fucking ready.
It moves through time.
5 for
18. 18 for Makka.
Okay. And I've got that. Alrighty. Yes, so Duncan, you will be up first, followed by Makka, and then because you have a surprise round, it'll be Ita.
Nice. And Duncan is extra nasty when he has time to prepare at the beginning of a combat. He's always ready to fight, and he was lying in wait. So for this one, he has advantage against his targets because they haven't taken a turn in combat, and any hit he scores against a creature that is surprised is an automatic crit.
Oh, damn. All right.
That's some assassin shit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Light him
He
up.
gets the drop. He's capable. So he'll take, I guess he'll shoot at the one on the right with his first round. He's going to stagger his shots rather than just shotgunning it at one because he doesn't know how durable these things are.
For ease of visual, let's say one of them is sort of like a bluish lightning, and one of them is a yellowish lightning. Just so we have a visual in order to indicate where they are. So you're shooting at blue.
He'll shoot blue first because it looks spookier.
Yeah.
That is a 25 to hit.
Yes, that will hit.
Beautiful. And it's
just a little bit.
It's an auto crit, so it rolled the 2 dice for 13 piercing damage.
Okay, damn.
And if it's still on its feet, he'll tag it with that second one, baby.
It is.
The second one is a 17 to hit.
Yep, that'll do.
Great. And with the auto crit, that comes to, oh shit, that is 22 damage.
Oh,
I rolled a 9 and a 10 on my 2 d10s. So,
so yeah, you quickly fire both barrels. It's double barreled, right?
Yeah,
Ryan. Yeah. So you just offload with both barrels, and the lightning creature immediately turns to you, and the first hit, we'll say, I don't know, like goes through its like hits it in the head, and a lot of its energy seems to like coalesce around the bullet, seeming to like slow it as it tears through. But then the second one tears through the kind of weakened lower chest, and you actually see like a crackle of lightning follow the this wouldn't really be a bullet so much as like a musket ball or something. But anyway, the bullet goes through it. The lightning tracks that, and you see like some of it collected around the head, some of it collected around the chest. Unfortunately, by splitting its focus like that, the thing crackles and bursts, falling apart to nothing. The other one lets out a static scream, just of kind of crackling energy, but is still caught unawares, bringing us to Makka.
Yeah, I think Duncan will yell, it's nice to shock you this time.
Makka, in the interest of maintaining concentration for Duncan's protection, is going to cast Chill Touch from range.
Okay.
And sorry, it's just been a second. Oh, sure. I have to roll a magic attack. So we'll see if I hit. 8 plus, I think 8. Yeah, 16 to hit.
Yep, that'll hit.
Okay. And I'm level 8 now, so that's 2d8 necrotic damage, if that matters.
It does not in this particular instance.
Okay. Whoa, double 8s, so 16 damage.
God damn. All right. A sound hit. You see kind of the spores you unleash start to like almost create just gaps in the lightning creature because obviously like I imagine lightning striking like a bunch of spores would burn a bunch of them, but also like it was like punching a pillow. Like so you can see just kind of these almost pods and gaps opening up in it that lightning is just kind of smacking against. And you see the creature stagger and continue to hiss. Ita.
So I will hit. Duncan got one. Makka got the other.
Yeah, yellow is now dead.
Yellow's dead.
Or sorry, blue. Sorry, blue is dead. Yellow is heavily injured from Makka's attack.
Okay. I think what I will attempt to use disarming theorem, which is where basically I calm the creature and attempt to charm it. And I think what I do, because normally I'd like start listing off number sequences, but recognizing that this creature is like a lightning creature and lightning is basically creates like fractals in nature, I start to draw attention to the other fractals in nature around it to try to like bring it into like some sense of harmony and calmness, which is basically like, observe the beating of my heart, observe the branching of the trees, observe the frost around you. We are all the same.
Right.
And then it has to make a wisdom saving throw.
Okay.
How wise is this electricity?
Oof. It is 8 wise, which is not very good.
That's no owl.
That's less than 14, so yeah. Okay, so it's charmed and basically can't hurt us until the start of my next turn, unless someone hurts it first. But I'm like,
so I think with that in mind, then once you calm it, it actually dissipates. Ida, observing it and kind of thinking about these things in the terms that you do, observing both of these creatures kind of fall apart. Obviously, physical damage does affect them, but in this case, you can only imagine, particularly having observed Makka and his concentration spells, how much focus there has to be for this living lightning to remain corporeal. And it would seem that as soon as it isn't filled with this kind of rage, its body has no need to maintain a semblance of form. So it just kind of crackles and strikes the ground, strikes the tree around it. It's a little bit of a Back to the Future lightning strike where it just kind of like arcs up the tree and then dissipates. Leaving the three of you alone in the rain yet again.
Duncan will look over and give her a nod and say, "Clever girl."
Well done, Ita. You.
Fuck it, I'm corrupt.
It.
Inspiration to Ryan for a great Jurassic Park quote. Know your DM, pals.
he is never going to get another inspiration.
Nope. Know your DM. Yeah, great. Sorry, you were going to say.
Well done, Ita. You destroyed it with your incantation. Very, very powerful magic you have. Yes, good.
Yes, I'm not sure that destruction is the word, though.
It is gone from here. You eliminated the creature, yes? You spoke arcane words and cast it away.
Well, I mean, really, I just calmed it down, and I believe it left of its own volition.
Hey, friends, it's a combat situation. Ita, learn to take a compliment. Makka, let's keep this one rolling, bud.
And with that, you venture forward. So you are hearing more lightning strikes nearby, but luckily none are directly in your path. You are now also finding more and more debris. There is, you can see sort of damage to some of the trees, as well as pieces of metal here and there that seem to have come off of the cloud skimmer. Given the amount of, again, kind of weather happening here, it's hard to tell when this happened, but it's not like smoking. Like this didn't just happen today. As indicated by your friends back at the clinic, they got word, let's say 2 weeks ago, that this vessel was coming. But nevertheless, you are able to kind of identify the crash path. And so you make your way forward, kind of following that. Did you guys want to roll stealth? Would you be doing this as stealthily as possible, given that you're getting closer to the site?
Ida would definitely approach with some trepidation.
Yeah, I think we'd be cautious. So stealth is probably the best example of that. Like we're not looking to just throw down with an army of lightnings.
Gotcha.
So disadvantage for Ida and I for exhaustion, correct?
Yes.
14.
Yep.
Makka rolled a 5 plus 0 for stealth.
And
right.
Duncan got a 19. He rolled a 13 and a 15 on 2 dice, so it worked out well.
Nice. All right. So Ita and Duncan, perhaps because you're tired, you're stealthier, just moving slower. Unfortunately, Makka, for you, you're just a bit too big and are making a bit too much noise. The three of you emerge kind of in an artificial clearing, where ahead you can see a large metallic shape has crashed into the ground. The cloud skimmer from here does actually seem to be think like a very Final Fantasy is always a very good pull for this, but like a small airship. Not like a massive travel the globe kind of thing, but certainly not the size of a helicopter, but a bit bigger than the boat you were on earlier. So it has clearly had a full cabin and likely area below. But yeah, you can imagine like a small,
like dirigible style.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Maybe a little bit bigger than that, but yeah, it's not huge, but big enough that you have an indoor area and that sort of thing. In Star Wars terms, think like half the size of the Millennium Falcon. Gotcha. So like there's enough room that people can move around inside it, but not so big that, there's a lot.
So like Slave One?
Yeah, Slave One, perfect. Actually,
cool.
Yeah. Or if we're talking more modern terms, the ship from Mandalorian. Like just one of those things it's got room, but it's not got a lot of room. It's a functional vessel. It is and it is fucking done. Like it has it is hot trash at this point. It clearly went through a bunch of trees on the way down. At distance, you can still see lightning damage. Duncan, you're struck by the sort of panels, almost like wings that come off of it. They are very similar in design to those that keep Orville aloft. So kind of large, almost solar panels at a variety of angles around it. In flight, this thing would likely be using all of those as wings. So think like if you multiply a dragonfly by a bunch, that's sort of vibe. It is. There are still fires burning that seem to have been burning since it went down. You don't see you're still a ways away. You can kind of just see it. You're in its crash divot. So the actual ship itself is still a little distance away. Unfortunately, because Makka was making a bunch of noise, you can't approach stealthily, but currently nothing is like coming out to meet you.
Well, we've kind of got our game plan, so I imagine Duncan, leading the way, drawing attention as much as possible away from. I think it's more just like him slightly to the right and slightly ahead of the turtle. He can't distract from like the turtle's secret, but he would lead the way, and we could just approach the ship.
Sure. Can you roll me a perception check, please, sir?
Yes. $13.
Okay. As you approach, you begin to hear kind of the sound of what sounds like something spinning up, like a whirring noise, but then it like clicks and stops. It's a little bit like a car engine stalling and refusing to start. And as you approach, you can see that because of the way the body of the ship is twisted, the interior of the ship is visible from this direction as you get closer, and you can actually see that the engine still has energy and seems to be like trying to spin up as it kind of crackles and sputters. Being exposed to the water, it's clearly pretty badly damaged. You can see a bit of the crew cabins. Even from here, there seem to be metallic instruments kind of everywhere around here. At a glance, you would, and this kind of tracks with what you know, it seems to be a science vessel of some sort. Like you're finding magnifying equipment, scalpels, specimen cases, that sort of thing. You do find a couple of bodies as you get closer. They are charred fairly badly, but you're able to identify a couple of gnomes who clearly succumbed to their wounds. They have been wrapped in sort of a damp, what look almost like sheets. And they have been arranged next to each other. So they aren't buried, but they do seem to be like someone moved them here. They didn't just drop here. In terms of the ship itself, again, it looks like it nosedived, kind of crash landed. If you were to spend some time searching, you could probably find the tracks that would give you some indication of where everyone went. But right now, it does seem very much to be abandoned.
All right, I'm thinking, friends, we should probably... Ita, I'd love it if you could take a look at that engine and just turn it off, because I don't want it to explode on us while we're trying to search this place. Mark, it seems like you and I could check the crew compartments and see if we could find any notes. Maybe I could find a captain's space of some kind, see if they had any maps or other information or logs.
There was talk of a key being on board this vessel. Perhaps it remains still among the wreckage.
Correct.
I will begin my search.
And Makka will start to enter the exposed interior.
Sure.
Of this
Do you want to roll
craft.
me an investigation there, sir?
Investigation? Yeah. That was a 13 plus 1, 4. 14. Jesus.
Cool. So, and Duncan, you're looking for captain's quarters and stuff. So if you could roll investigation as well, please.
Sure.
And then Ita, you're going to investigate the engine.
Yeah, totally.
All right. I think we can from you take take investigation there as well, actually.
Cool. Disadvantage still, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, still not bad. 21.
Yep.
4 for Duncan.
Okay.
Oh, 22. Sorry. My mistake.
Oh, well, that makes all the difference.
Right?
And Makka, what'd you get?
I'm sorry, what was the roll again?
Investigation.
Investigation again?
No,
I did
sorry.
get the 14.
Oh, you got the 14. Yes. Sorry. Okay. So, Makka and Duncan, as you begin to search, Duncan, you are disappointed to find that you do find the captain's quarters, but they're very, very sterile. There's no personal effects strewn around, which is odd in your experience. But at the same time, if this is like, for lack of a better term, like a rental vehicle, you wouldn't be entirely surprised. But it does give you something that there isn't like, it's not like the Jack Sparrow quarters where there's just like trophies and shit everywhere. But unfortunately, it would seem that the place was cleared out, which does indicate that there were survivors, obviously, but no tremendously useful information. Makka, for you in your search, in looking kind of like cabin to cabin, you're not finding a lot of anything really. This does seem almost like it was meant to be a day trip, or a couple day trip. You find some rations around, but no key per se. That said, as you do, the difference between the crew cabins that you're searching and the captain's quarters is these are a little junkier, as you would imagine from like people who aren't necessarily in command, possibly being a little looser with how they keep their rooms. You do find a kind of like essentially the way that people used to write out like map quest instructions. There do seem to be some rough notes, largely about the improvised key, which seems to be something that they built and brought in rather than something that was already here. But also in the rough notes that you're seeing, there's a question of is there still power, and a big question mark. You don't get much else from that, but it at least gives you something to work with as you continue your investigation. Ita, for you, approaching the engine, you rolled very high, which is great. Approaching the engine, it is very unstable. I think the Empire, I imagine, is a bit more like sort of like an Aztec or Mayan civilization, in that there are great mechanisms, but they are all cogs and pulleys and that sort of thing. It's not a technologically or like a mechanically advanced, well, not even advanced, but it isn't electrically. Thank you. It's much more like, no, these are the things we know we can control. We understand physics. We actually don't need to mechanate this. Also, the Empire is very close neighbors with Apex. So imagine similar to how, gardens in France are like, stay off the lawn, and gardens in England are like, please walk on the lawn, just because the two cultures insisted on being slightly different on dumb things. There's a bit of a pride in, I think, the Empire of like, we don't need machines. We actually have a better solution that doesn't require all this. So this isn't something you'd be super familiar with, but nor is it also something that you would be completely taken aback by. That said, you can see that it's heavily damaged. And there is obviously like it is smoking and spinning and moving. You've been tasked with turning it off so it doesn't explode. You're actually not sure how you can do that. So I guess my question is, would you risk trying to shut it down?
Is there like a glove box with the user's manual?
There is not.
Nuts.
One thing you do know of the Apex Institute is they all fancy themselves baby geniuses. So the odds are that there are no manuals anywhere, because we all know we built these things. Yeah. It's another thing the Empire finds incredibly frustrating.
In that case, I think she would want to look for like whatever like source of energy there is in there, and basically like cut the wire as it were, just to like stop. I think she understands like the basic, like there's a source of energy in this, and if I can just like disconnect that.
I think that makes sense. Okay, so can you roll me? I think it's investigation again.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yep. And with disadvantage because you're exhausted.
On all these disadvantages, I keep rolling nat 20s as one of them. It's very frustrating.
Your dice are on fire.
Well, it's really funny because this was like the same one with like I was rolling advantage, and it was the same die yesterday that was giving like shit results. So
I was gonna say, if it was giving you 20s yesterday, I know those die. They have metal in them.
That's a 12.
12? All right. As you begin to investigate, you are alarmed to determine that the engine itself is the power source. So you could cut wires away from it, but it is generating, this thing is generating the engine is generating power that is kind of filtering out. this is odd, but also kind of tracks with the way the Empire or with the way Apex works. They like closed circuits. They like things that are kind of an enclosed ecosystem. So unfortunately, there's no direct cable to cut. So basically, your options are leave it alone or bash it at this point.
I think I'll just look to everyone like, I mean,
Duncan's in the captain's quarters, so you're just looking and saying,
I am,
but he's not there.
Yeah, no, I am 100%.
Which is where you find yourself as a crackle begins to emit from the engine behind you. And having not received any immediate response, you turn and see energy arcing off of the engine and out. And as it continues to whir and spit, slowly a figure begins to emerge from the engine, growing larger and larger, cascading out in huge electrical arcs. And finally, the engine goes silent as a massive kind of 4-tentacled electrical being rises from the engine and lets out a massive static scream. Roll for initiative.
This episode of Curse Code and Crowd Sound was mixed and edited by Laura Hamstra, and the campaign was created by Tom McGee. Our original theme music was composed by Landon Knoblock, and Curse Code and Crown's logo was created by the brilliant Decapitated Markers. If you want to follow our players or our DM on Twitter, you can reach out to Laura at EL Hamstring, Ryan at the Ryan LaPlante, Tyler at Tyler_Hewitt, Tom McGee at McGeeTD, or you can message our whole company at Dum Dum Dice. So please join us again for more Curse, Code, and Crown!
Dum Dums and Dice has to give a special thank you to the supreme beings of our Patreon at this time: Christian Menicola, the Half-Blind Prophet, Christopher Little, Sue One, George Dolby, One True Artistry, Orion Birchfield, Lord of Borovic, Noel Lewis, Scott Garland, Anthony Griffin, Benjamin V, Gavin and Abby McDonald, Cade Peters, Richard Cranium, Anna Zed, Eric Williams, Logan, Fire Unfriendly, Acrix, Cameron Ezel, Grandma Likes D&D, Alan, Austin Nut Powers Fry, Stabby Stranger, and Jill and Noel LaPlante. If you want your name to be added to this list, you can join our Patreon too at patreon.com/dumdumdice. Thanks to them, and a little bit of thanks to you.